Hi guys, and welcome to Samsung Now. Now, as I'm sure you may be aware, that Samsung Now is where we review, look at, talk about the latest from Samsung, things that may be related to Samsung in terms of their phones, Android, gadgets, and much more. So if you're interested in tech, if you're interested in Samsung, and you're interested in just sort of what's going on and what my opinion is and what other people's opinions are, then this is the place to be, and don't forget to subscribe. So today it's Thursday's Thoughts, and Thursday's Thoughts are where I sort of reach out to you and sort of discuss various things related to tech. Things that sort of like a subject of the week. And then below in the comments, you can sort of continue that discussion and we'll talk about, and then we'll look to what we can talk about the following week. Now, being that this is the first one, obviously we've not had a huge amount of feedback in terms of what it is that we're looking to talk about this week. So this week I've decided to choose VR. And as we know, it's the hot topic. We've got all sorts of VR things going on and around, certainly the Samsung device, more recently with DayDream and Google, which are looking to incorporate Samsung as a DayDream ready device. But also we have the HTC Vive, and we also have the Oculus Rift. Now, briefly, my sort of experience and exposure to VR has been initially through Google Cardboard a long time ago, a while ago. And then from there, I built a PC and got the HTC Vive, which was amazing. It's an amazing thing. But there are I have some issues with VR, and I'm not too sure as to whether the general public, rather than the enthusiasts, are really ready for it. And I think more so that, you know, the general public are more likely to pick up something like this that's cheap, that is an immediate sort of introduction to VR, than, say, spending an awful lot of money on a VR headset and then, you know, a computer to help run that. So that I think there's always going to be a case with VR where we have those that are sort of high end, and it's a little bit in some respects for how console and PC gamers are. You know, you have the PC gamers that have the latest hardware and go on about, you know, uber graphics and this, that, and the other. And then you have the console people that just want the immediacy and the simplicity of it and just want to play games and understand that, you know, they're going to take a graphical hit on that. And I think that's possibly how VR may go, in that, you know, the predominant user case for VR will be devices such as this. And further on, you know, we've learned just this sort of last week or so that Google are developing a VR headset that requires no phone. But it requires nothing. It's a self-contained unit, and a lot of those will come out. And I think those will be key, because not everyone owns a very powerful, you know, Samsung S8 phone, such as the one I'm recording this with. So I really feel that, you know, the VR sort of ecosystem will be broken up into a sort of a simplistic, but gradually more sort of involving ecosystem based around the mobile platforms and the sort of the lower end case and cheaper, more affordable platforms. Much like sort of how apps have become for phones and so on. So there's the immediacy, people can pick it up, you don't need to be a computer whiz to use them. And then at the higher end of the scale, we're going to have the HTC Vives and the Oculus Rifts, and I'm not too sure how Oculus Rift is going to develop and become better than, say, HTC Vive. Vive is an amazing system, and it's going to get an awful lot better. So I feel that's going to be more for the enthusiast. So you're going to have sort of the real involved experiences with the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift, and the lower end sort of more sort of passive experiences, much like it is now in many ways, than we do with the mobile and the sort of the self-contained units. Well, I do think that it was a good move for both Google and Samsung to include, you know, the little controller, the puck-like device, because that creates some kind of involvement that sort of draws you more into those. But still, even with those, it's still only doing a little bit more than what the sort of head tracking thing would do on both these devices. So I feel that you know, it's going to be more still very passive experiences until the hardware can catch up in terms of, you know, reducing the cost of and the development of a self-contained headset that is cheap enough for the sort of the average person to want to splash out for. And then we're going to see sort of experiences that are still limited to being involved in this, I imagine, sort of sat down, even though I hear that Google is developing new software in the 2.0 for DayDream that uses some kind of tracking ability based on its whereabouts in terms of where your furniture is and so on. But I think that's more for its self-contained units that would have that ability. So the software, I think, will still be quite limited in terms of experience on the lower end, and I think, you know, that's still going to be played out as much as how tech and console games and PC games are in some respects. And I think we're never going to never the twain shall meet. We're never going to see games that are on the high end systems like HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift appear on these. Because those, and I think what they're going to involve themselves more with is the ability of control and touch and space, you know, that dimensional thing, which I think is some way off in terms of being able to capture that accurately with the mobile and the self-contained units. Now we have a bit of a crossover with this in terms of where the Sony VR system is, and I had that too, and that is really good for what it is, but it's still pretty expensive. You know, we're still talking £400 by the time you've got a camera and some motion controllers and so on. And the games, even though we've just recently had Farpoint come out, or Farpoint it should be called, it's still, you know, it's still very on rails. You're still just sort of bang, 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 bang. It's still, you know, it's just, you know, an on-rails shooter that, if were it not for being a VR game, would be sort of given like a 2 out of 10, really. But, you know, we're still early days. You know, I think a lot of people are expecting too much from VR too soon, and they're expecting these enormous leaps. And there's an awful lot of naysayers with VR, and they're usually the ones that haven't even tried it. It's just incredible. They sort of believe that, oh no, VR is a waste of time. It's just a gimmick and what have you. But those people usually change their minds when they've actually tried it and been immersed. And the best way of really trying it is using, say, a HTC Vive or an Oculus Rift, and sort of getting that whole sense of space and an awareness of your sort of body within that sort of digital space. There's nothing quite like it. So in terms of where the future, it's early days, of course, but I feel that, you know, it's still it's not going to go away. Too much has been invested in it. There's too much interest in it. You've got big hitters like Samsung, Google, Facebook behind, you know, and HTC behind all of this and throwing more and more money at it. It's just because it's still an early ecosystem. You know, we need to forget, you know, that the real Oculus really only started until sort of Facebook started pumping money into it and bought them out. That was only a few years ago. To develop that kind of VR experience that we really want, that we look to expect, you know, sort of a lawnmower man-esque sort of experience, we're away from that in terms of where the software needs to be. The hardware might be there, and in some respects, but the software and the development of that takes an awful lot of time. look at how it takes for a new console when it comes out for software developers and game developers to develop the games and software that really takes advantage of that. We tend to only really see that 3-4 years later, where they're squeezing the hardware and really making good use of it. Initially, all you see are sort of showcases on what the technology can do, but it's in many ways it's kind of in a rudimentary form, or just a copycat of what's been done before just trying to leverage it into that sort of space, that 3D environment, or into that hardware that's being used. So I think, you know, we're still early days with that, and it's going to be a couple more years before we really begin to see VR games that are going to wow us. During that time, the hardware is going to catch up and become an awful lot cheaper. So I think in a few years, 2-3 years, we're going to see a leveling off, where the hardware becomes an awful lot more affordable, becomes better, easier to produce. It's mass produced, so you've got that the fact that it's cheaper because they're making much more of it, economies of scale, and the public will become more aware of VR, and because those games are coming out that are more VR capable and are wow, I think that's really going to draw people in. So it's still early days. Those of us that are involved in it now are still kind of enthusiasts. Even if you're picking up these, you're still kind of an enthusiast. You're still an early adopter, I believe. So VR is exciting. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your experiences with VR. Let me know what your hopes are for the future of VR. Let me know if you believe it's just a bust and it's just, you know, just a waste of time. Let me know. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to watch my other videos. I will be doing hopefully this week. I know every Friday I say I'm going to do a review, but I'm hoping to review the Samsung 4K Blu-ray player this week, so please look out for that. And yeah, check out my videos, subscribe and stuff. Okay, thanks a lot, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.